studio with me today, I have Father Mike Wensing, who many people in the diocese know and love. Welcome, Father Mike.
Thank you, Renee.
You were around quite a few parishes over
Yes.
your time as an active priest.
Yes.
You said Watertown, Brookings, Sioux Falls,
Vermilion.
Were you in the Newman Center?
I was at the Newman Center, and I had Wakanda as a mission.
Oh,
Just like
wow.
out of Sioux Falls once, I had Huntemer for a year as a mission. So I had some rural life, but
Yeah, you
I
had
had-
a good mix then.
and then I was vocations and youth director for the diocese. It got that way back when I was a young priest. That got me into just about all the 100 parishes.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I regularly did either small retreats or preached on vocations
Yeah,
during Sunday
yeah.
Mass.
So you're well known around the diocese. So we wanted Father Wensing. It is Christmas Eve day when this is airing. So we wanted Father Mike to come in and talk about the Incarnation, Christmas in general, the Holy Family. So who better than Father Wensing?
Many would love to talk on this topic.
That's true. That's true. All right. So let's just jump right in, Father. I'm going to ask you like the biggest question because I asked another priest this question. He was like, "That I can't talk about that in 20 minutes." So we're going to distill it down as if it's a homily. What is the Incarnation, and why does it matter for us?
Well, after creation, God creating everything, the universe from nothing, the two biggest mysteries in all of religious history is the Incarnation and the resurrection. And I love sometimes how, some theologians over drinks will argue which is the greater, but you can't really do that. They're both incredible mysteries because they deal with the transcendent and the immanent somehow joining, being married together. Now I'm going to start a little reflection by Emeritus Pope Benedict.
Okay.
It fits the season because he's talking about, he starts with St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, and then segues into the Incarnation.
Okay.
So he says, tradition has always equated Santa Claus with Bishop Nicholas, who participated in the Council of Nicaea, which was 325 AD, and helped to formulate the affirmation of the true divinity of Jesus Christ. What was at stake here was the core of Christianity. Was Jesus of Nazareth only a great religious man, or, like many other world religions say about him, or had God himself actually become in him one of us? Ultimately, the question was this: is God so mighty that he can make himself small? Is he so mighty that he can love us and really enter in our lives? In professing faith in the Incarnation, ultimately, it is a case of affirming man and woman's capacity to live and die in a human manner. What a way to conclude, in a human manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus died in a human manner.
Right.
I mean, it was gross, but it was
Yes.
human suffering and death. So, that sets the example. The Catechism, a little more straightforward than Pope Benedict.
That's kind of surprising because much of the time the Catechism is quite straightforward.
Yes,
but-
yeah. But I mean, Benedict kind of couches it in the season.
Right.
The season. And then they actually quote to begin their definition. It all starts with John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Right.
Boom. And then they turn to St. Paul. Have this in mind among yourselves, which, and this is from Philippians 2, which is yours in Christ Jesus. He, though he's in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped at, but emptied himself. So that was the Incarnation, God emptying himself into a limited container, the human nature.
Right.
Now, number 463 goes on, belief in the true incarnation of the Son of God is the distinctive sign of Christian faith. By this you know the Spirit of God, says 1 John's letter, chapter 4, that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh and is of God. So that's getting those things. It's almost like one of those labyrinths you had to walk in catechism class when you were young. Okay, God and Jesus are one. Are one. There's Jesus is the second person of the Trinity. There's just one person, but you got two natures: the divine nature and the human nature. And all the first three councils, Nicaea was in 325. Then later in 300, there was the Council of Chalcedon, and then there was the Council of Ephesus. I mean, there was Ephesus and then Chalcedon. Who one time they had to emphasize his divinity, and the other time when there was like the Gnostic says, well, he was like divine all the time. He just made an appearance. It was like an illusion
right.
in our midst.
Right.
And no, you have to. John protested. I touched him in the flesh.
Right.
He came in the flesh. And then so another council had to come back and announce that he was true human like us. And then he took it from Hebrews. He was tempted in every way we were. So suffered and was hungry and thirsty and tired and but didn't sin. He was tired but not crabby. So that's, I guess, that might be the phrase it. So
yeah.
We rejoice. It ties in with all the other mysteries of faith. One of my seminarian friends, when we were studying, after class, he said, wow, if Jesus or God, the transcendent one, can become material, that is, human flesh, then it's easy jump to believe that God can become bread, the Eucharist.
Yes. Oh, that's
so
very
the Incarnation,
true. Yeah.
It segues into that belief. Yes, if you can believe in the first, then it's easier to come to believe in the second.
I had never thought of it that way. That is a great way to think of it.
That was a profound insight for me, and I've always remembered that. I think we were deacons in the seminary when you said that after class.
Yeah.
Should have went up on billboards everywhere.
Absolutely.
But, when you stop and think about it, how the space satellites, the telescopes are making universe bigger. It is what it is, but we're discovering it's bigger and bigger and bigger. And you think that infinite one who could do that decided to become one of us. I always say it started in Genesis when he made man and woman in his image. That image is what was the cradle of the incarnation, that we're made already. We have the spark of the divine in us. So that God could become, in Mary's womb, a human being.
Right.
So, like at the Council of Ephesus, trying to emphasize the personhood of Jesus being one person. A lot of people misunderstood what they called a Theotokos. Mary was declared the mother of God, and everybody else liked to say, and even today other denominations should have said she's the mother of Jesus. And no, the reason the council did that is they wanted to emphasize that Jesus is God.
Right, you can't divide him.
Right, so Mary was mother of God. So it was really 90% about Jesus, and 10%, of course, her tremendous role in carrying this out from God. So that was the revelation. This part I'm going to come to a conclusion, which is a story from Pierre, South Dakota. The late Father Flannery, many people remember and admired him, and I think his last pastorate was the St. Mary's here in Sioux Falls. He had a young priest. I won't really mention his name right now, but he was fresh out of the seminary, ordained, assigned to Pierre, and he was a great. In fact, he's the one that even told me that story. That line that God, if God could become material, human flesh, then it's easy to see how God can become bread.
Yeah.
Well, so he was a great thinker. But on Christmas Eve, pastor asked him to take the Mass. And so he was concelebrating, and the young newly ordained priest walks over to the parish nativity scene and points. And he says, "Therein lies the incarnation, the enfleshment of the divine unconditional love for the human condition, the Christological fact of an ecclesial people." After Mass, Father Flannery put his arm around the young priest in the back. He said, "It's called a baby."
So everyone else in the pews was probably like, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is a baby.
That segues us into Christmas Eve now and Christmas Day, when there's something about celebrating the baby.
Yes.
And that reveals the incarnation. It can connect the dots like nothing else.
Yeah.
So,
This is really the time of year when the Holy Family begins.
yes.
You have this family, this perfect example family for us. So how can we model our own families after them?
Yeah. I was thinking about that a bit, and I thought, the first stage in the Holy Family was after the Incarnation. We pray the mysteries of the Rosary, called the Joyful Mysteries. And it was only in recent years that when I'm saying it, I'll say, first joyful mystery, the angel Gabriel announces to Mary, or the Annunciation. And now I pause and say, and also the Incarnation.
Yes.
So the Holy Family started 9 months before Christmas. And we celebrate that on May 25th. In fact, Pope John Paul II once in a while reflected to his staff that almost was thinking of moving March 25th into the area of a solemnity or a holy day.
Right.
Because for us in the pro-life movement, it celebrates life beginning at conception,
Yes.
and what Jesus it did.
Yep.
And John the Baptist shortly later recognized that
Mm-hmm.
live presence of a human in Mary's womb, and leaped himself, which was another human leaping
Yes.
in another womb. So I mean, it goes on and on. So you look at that and say, now how do families begin, how they handle pregnancy? The silence and the cooperation, and you see that between Mary and Joseph. Finally, when Joseph had the revelation that she was with child by God, by the Holy Spirit. And then the other lesson I learned from the point of Christmas forward is Luke's gospel. Remember Mary just must have smiled and to shepherds and said she pondered all these things in her heart. And that seemed like to be her life, pondering the mystery. I don't know how it's going to unfold.
Yeah.
But it's a mystery I trust.
Right.
I'm trusting that she trusted when she said, "Fiat, let it be done to me according to thy word." So then I think we have what is called the silent years, and everybody's curious about that, except for when he was 12 years old and he's in the temple, which happens to be about the age of bar mitzvah in Jewish life.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't
Yeah.
have it celebrated as bar
Right.
mitzvah yet at then, but that was called the transition to adulthood and when you would become a son of the law.
Sure.
And so he was a master of the law already. So it was kind of his, kind of almost like bar mitzvah statement. We had this coming out with the law in front of the temple priests and scholars. But other than that, it's silent. And I was just thinking that this season needs, especially in the cyber age, cell phones, etc., needs dollops of silence, but presence to each other rather than saying, "See you later," or off to my room, or off to my friends, or onto my phone. I don't know how you can do that, but it just there should be dollops of silence, so we can ponder these things in our hearts. So I would say the biggest lesson in 2023, going into 2024, is families resolving, how do we spend some quality time in silence together? It's hard to even imagine. It's
It is.
great in good weather when they say, "Let's go take a walk together." And sometimes they're all looking around and you don't have to talk. How do you turn off the TV, or how do you have a silence together?
You do this, Father. You go click.
Yeah, click. So maybe after, a parent could say, "Now, would it be wonderful just to eat this meal in silence like the monks and maybe the
Yeah,
sisters
yeah.
do?" And then for 5 minutes, sure, I'm going to time it. If everybody can be silent for 5 minutes. But anyway, they got to be creative in how to do the dollops of silence.
Yeah, for sure. Good. If you just joined us, we're talking to Father Mike Wensing about the Incarnation and the Christmas season. So, Father, you've been a priest for a long time. Do you have any specific devotions or other things you do around Advent or Christmas?
Well, my repetitive Advent habits are simple, but they mean a lot to me. One is Handel's Messiah. At the beginning of Advent, I always have to listen to that. And I know that sets the stage because, it's a prominent book in the Bible, and Handel's Messiah is Isaiah, but he does move up through the New Testament in the book of Revelation.
Sure.
And it's of course, opera is beautiful to listen to anyway. And that's a great stage. Obviously, I say the rosary every day, but I especially want to say the rosary during Advent and focusing more days than not on the joyful mysteries. Usually every day has its own set of mysteries, now that we have 4 sets of them. But sometimes I'll skip the sorrowful and do the joyful.
Sure.
Sorrowful is more for Lent. So I can get to these mysteries of the Incarnation. So that's a whole different focus with the rosary. Then I have another kind of a thing I always do is that whether I'm visiting people's lives, churches or stores, my eyes always look for the creche nativity set.
Oh.
I don't even look for a tree. In fact, I was at a guest last night at a family, and I walked in and took my coat off and went up to the living room, and I think the tree is off to my right, but I can't even tell you now. But I saw the nativity set there, and it was unique. And the mother said she was just so joyful to tell the details of where she got the little statues and where,
Yes.
and then she had the statues. We had to find a perfect a little housing for it. And she found it at Hobby Lobby, and I thought I was glad that she got excited over it and that I admired it. But I think it came from studying in Italy. They have competitions, all those churches in,
See, we should
in
do
Rome.
that. We should do that more.
A creche
Sunday.
scene, yeah. So I said, and then by commenting on it, it segues into great religious conversation. But I just do it personally. I've taken, just started a few years ago where that's the first thing I pay attention to, because most people are taking it down right after Christmas. We
Right.
should be able to do that during the 12 days of Christmas. But
Right.
no, I've got to look for the creches right now
Yeah.
during Advent, right up through Christmas.
Yeah.
And, okay, that explains some of my simple approaches to,
Yeah.
to
You
Advent.
just gave me a good idea for next year. Maybe we should do a, hey, parishes, send in photos of your scenes, and we'll have a little contest, a vote to see who likes which one is the best.
Which one is the best? I mean, I was lucky to having led all those tours to the Holy Land that
Yeah.
I could pick up olive wood, nativity set,
Yeah.
and housing right in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So that's very meaningful when I set up my own. Maybe it started then after I started setting up my own. But it goes back to my childhood. There were some years when the crop didn't come in and we were poor, and there wasn't much folks could do for Christmas gifts. And I even remember sometimes Mom wouldn't buy a tree, or Dad went, and she'd bring out her little Charlie Brown 4-foot tree and
Yeah.
decorate it up. But she always put out that little Christmas crib. And when I got older, she said, you were like 5 years old. She said, you would sit and stare and stare and stare at that endlessly. And I said, I kind of remember that. Of course, you don't remember a lot when you're
Right,
5.
right.
But she remembered it.
Yeah. I also wish more of the nativity scenes that you buy would have Jesus separate from the manger, because so many of them he's
Yeah.
in the manger. It's all one piece.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of leave it out.
Yeah, I know
The whole
it.
thing. You kind of want that empty manger there. but
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was always when I was at Holy Name in Watertown. That was a big part of the children's procession at the
Yeah.
children's mass was, and of course we had a big, large nativity scene, and baby Jesus was not quite full size, but large.
Right.
Was to choose the child that would bring in
Sure. Yep.
the child Jesus in procession.
And what an honor for them, right?
Oh yeah, they're all me, and so. But we gathered around them, and then we put, and that of course singing the Silent Night and everything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so you're right. It
Yeah.
would be nice to celebrate the placing of Jesus on
Yes.
Christmas Eve.
Yes. Do you have any special ways you can suggest that we approach Christmas?
Well, I mentioned trying to have those gallops of silence, and personally, we can try to do that. Start with ourselves if we can, with our family. Be selective about the TV specials you watch. I mean, there's tons to choose from. You can just get diverted. I mean, they're celebrating all kinds of musical, classic, and artists from before, etc. So I find myself that saying, usually I watch an hour of TV at night just to what's called nesting, just to unwind
Sure.
and get ready
Yeah.
for bed.
Yeah.
Now, if there's why am I watching this? It's not that interesting, and boom, it goes off.
Right.
So I can do some reading or spiritual reading or meditating or and I recommend that too, is because you got to go against the current. This is a noisy season, so swimming against the current a little bit with the silence. And
Yeah.
then and I mentioned the rosary as well in family life. It's a good thing to say in the car.
that's
We
a
used
good
to do
idea.
that on the way to church, but we
Yeah.
had 5 miles of gravel road to get to church, and it was just about
You had enough time.
the right amount of time to say the rosary. And I thought it's the only time you got kids trapped.
Right, without TV or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and without
very true.
diversion. And then
Yep.
and then the big thing was eventually Mom started saying, you all have to take turns leading it now, so pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'd go down through the 5 kids, each one, it was their turn to lead the rosary in
Right,
the car.
right. So did you each lead a decade then?
But sometimes we did that too,
Yeah.
and that's how we started. And then sometimes it was every other decade,
Yeah.
where you answered it, but did you led it as well. There's, I think, what else is another thing to do during Advent? Well, selective fasting, but really we don't emphasize that too much like we do Lent.
Right, right.
But it's good to remember it is a season of fast, too. All preparation seasons are seasons of fasting.
Right.
And, I don't know how people choose. They might do something minor, give up just chewing gum or
Sure, yeah.
or
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
chocolates.
huge.
No,
Yeah.
but it's more of a symbolic intention that I am preparing for something large.
Right, right. Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left. Do you have like a favorite memory from Christmas? I mean, you're not 15, so
No,
you
I
probably have a
don't.
lot of Christmas memories.
Right. Well, I mean, just jumping through the ages. I mentioned the earlier one about being a child at home in front of the Christmas crib.
Yeah.
But Mom always, Santa Claus always came during the midnight mass. When I grew up, that was the earliest mass you could have, was at midnight.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it truly was, and we were all excited about it. Except as little kids, we always fell asleep. It was so awful. We were almost sick to our stomach when they woke us up to get ready for church.
Yes.
But by the end of mass, we were so excited because we knew that Santa Claus came during the Mass. So
Right.
the excitement of the five of us, and then they couldn't get us to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning. And Dad would say, "We all got to get up and do chores, you know." And so
Oh,
we would
man.
finally go to bed. We were in hyper mode. But those are still fond memories. And then I'll leap forward to, I was in the seminary, but then when I first started at St. Lambert's, Father Ryan was my pastor, and I was a deacon. And we had, in those days, first semester was an internship in the parish. And in the second semester of our fourth year, quite different today, but then we went back to the seminary for a
Okay,
semester
sure.
of study. So he wanted the Christmas to be really special. And there was a particular solo of a musician in Twin Cities that wrote, and it's not a real public song, but that I kept bragging about. Somehow he got a hold of that music secretly and had a soloist sing that
wow.
for me at the midnight Mass as they were getting ready to go
That's
back.
awesome.
That just opened up where I knew I loved parish life. And so I
Yes.
can jump each new parish, but I jumped forward to, the St. Michael's when I first got there the first year. I had Newman Centers, which are rather quiet during the
Sure,
Christmas
yes,
vacation
yes.
time. So having this true big parish of St. Michael's, the children's Mass, it just lit up yes, this is where I belong. I love retirement and I love substituting, but this is what I'll miss about being
Yeah.
a priest assigned to a parish is when it comes Christmas Eve. Well, I'll celebrate, of course, but
Yes,
but
yes.
but I won't be in charge of the children and everything else. So,
Yeah.
but that's a favorite memory. Each of those segues when I started a new parish.
Yeah. Very cool. Are you celebrating somewhere this year?
I'm sure I'm registered at St. Michael's because I was pastor for 10
Sure.
years. And as soon as I got in town, the staff called and said, "I don't care where you live, you're registering here." And I said, "Well, I was going to anyway."
So they'll probably let you.
Yeah,
They'll let
yes.
you celebrate. Father, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about the Incarnation and Christmas. And have a very blessed Christmas. I hope you have lots of peace and a little silence, and also lots of time with the people you love.
Thank you. You
Thanks,
too.
Father.
Your family.
Thank you. If you haven't found us on social media already, you can find us at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube anytime at SF Diocese. Also, while you're out and about, if you are approached to sign a petition around abortion or supposedly pro-life, please decline to sign that petition. It is not a pro-life petition, and we want to try to avoid that if we can. So that is it for us today. Hope you'll join us again next week for more Catholic Views, and Merry Christmas.